Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. Checking out more DC work from writer Chuck Austen, this time seeing how he handles a whole team of iconic heroes. I'm taking issue with The Pain of the Gods, a story arc giving focus to each member of the Justice League of America at the time. I didn't care for it when I was collecting the title, but perhaps it's aged better since then. Let's begin with JLA number 101, with Austen joined by Ron Garney and David Barron, and see if these comics make us want to turn the page or turn our heads. The cover is pretty striking to say the least, and I think effective in getting your attention. Superman flying through a huge fire while images of his teammates appear in the flames. Turns out JLA actually stands for Justice League of Accelerants. We begin with a warehouse fire. Looks more like a factory of some kind, but it's later called a warehouse, with firefighters already on scene and some inside to rescue some trapped people. Their immediate path is blocked by burning timber, and the only other route is also obstructed. That's when Superman arrives on a 2-page spread, offering another option. Puppy yoga! He heads into the warehouse, clears the wood away, and flies ahead to see what he can do, with a couple firemen following on foot. He finds 3 workers trapped under debris next to a large, flammable gas tank. One guy's unconscious, but alive, another has a broken leg, so Soups asks the third, who seems more or less fine, to pull his friends free when he lifts up the tank. If only someone had thought to carry a couple of firemen down while he flew over, so they could have lent a hand. Dialogue progression here gets a little atypical. We read down to the last panel on the page, where Clark looks a lot more like Christopher Reeve, asking for this worker's help, then back to the top for this bubble from someone unseen. Not a big deal, only that the placement could be read out of order. Someone offers to lift the tank instead of Soups, leading to another 2-page spread introducing this guy. A dude in a yellow and red, possibly orange costume. Yeah, don't give his name, but he's already picked the thing up. Not exactly sure why Superman is posed like he's preparing to throw hands, though.
Hey, you! Let's fight! Them's fighting words.
As the tank starts leaking, the stranger admits to not being as strong as Big Blue, asking him to hurry up and get the men to safety. Then couldn't you have offered to help the injured get out, while the seasoned hero handled the giant capsule of explosive liquid? Or did you just want to show off and realize too late you bit off more than you can chew? The guy is straining, and Superman tells him to hold on for a few more seconds. He flies back up, telling the firefighters to turn back along the way, and drops the workers off for some medical care before proceeding to retrieve said civil servants. He calls the new Cape, asking how he's doing, who responds that he's waiting for him to get clear.
I thought you were fast!
I am! It's just that my 3 main weaknesses are kryptonite, magic, and dramatic tension. Clark flies through the building to get the firemen out more expeditiously, saying he only needs a couple more seconds. Some burning gas lands on the stranger, and he notices that it hurts.
I guess I'm not invulnerable. Dang it, my 5th grade teacher was right, and I made such a big show of how one day he would be wrong. Wonder if I'll ever live this down.
2-page spread number 3. The tank ignites, with the new guy at the epicenter of an explosion that rips through the facility. Cal rushes back inside, but to his horror, he finds the new hero's mangled body. Sometime later, he heads to the Watchtower, the League's base on the moon, and is apparently the only one around. So, in his frustration, he wrecks the conference table with the custom JLA shield logo, a chair or two, some monitors, all I'm sure to be itemized by Batman and filed under Super Tantrum. Green Lantern, John Stewart, who had recently been appointed to the team, walks in on the aftermath of this destruction, having heard news about the fire, and figuring the Boy Scout could use a friendly ear. Clark feels that he screwed up, more assuming that the stranger, in his confidence, was as capable from day one as so many other heroes before him, already knowing his own limits. Doesn't every hero with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal man test themselves by seeing if they get queasy around green rocks? He anticipates John pointing out how he couldn't have known about this newcomer and at least saved everyone else, but it doesn't make Big Blue feel any better. He could have held the tank and, well, tanked that explosion just fine. And now that poor guy's dead. And he didn't have the tenure needed for his superhero insurance to cover being brought back to life next year. He thanks John for listening, and we go to the metropolis suburb of Ridge Bay, where the deceased hero's kids are outside while Superman talks with the man's widow. She tells him not to blame himself since her husband wanted so badly to be a hero when he discovered his powers, like the Man of Steel. They made him a costume, making him the happiest she had ever seen, but she begged him not to go through with it for the sake of their kids. He, however, laughed off the notion of danger, since he'd be saving lives, helping people, and maybe even make it into the Justice League of America. On the fireplace, Clark sees a picture of the unnamed Samaritan with his son and daughter, so decides at least to give him that much, the issue ending on that photo now being hung in the watchtower, on a wall among framed images of other League champions.
So, what's this guy's name?
Didn't I tell you, Bruce? That's Dad Man! He had the strength of 100 dads, could telepathically set thermostats to just the right temperature, confound foes with groan-inducing puns.
You forgot to ask his name, didn't you?
I forgot to ask his name. Issue 102's cover has a plain white background with the Flash looking like he's taking a break, while some leaves waft around him.
Why? Why can't I beat that stupid tortoise in a foot race?
We begin with another burning building. 2 fires in a row don't quite make a pattern, but still. A woman is hanging on a ledge as a safety net is being set up below. Unfortunately, that ledge gives way and she falls, but is fortunately saved on a 2-pager by the Flash.
How's it going?
Wally, there's gotta be a better way to meet women than this. He tries assuring her as he takes them to the roof, but since that's falling apart, he jumps to a neighboring building, where a firefighter is conveniently right there to take care of her. She's not sure if there was anyone else left inside, so the speedster zips in and out, all around the inflamed apartment complex to check, in a very impressive scene. He arrives at one apartment and sees 2 kids on the floor, motionless. Later, as their bodies are taken away, Flash is talking with a veteran fireman, who says he's been lucky in his career, that this is the first body he's come across. Sounds kinda grammatically confusing since there were 2, but I guess he means it more in a general sense. He adds that, yeah, you eventually become accustomed to finding bodies of adults, but
you never get used to finding dead kids.
I certainly picked a cheery story to review, didn't I, folks? Later, Wally dashes into a hardware store to buy out all their smoke detectors, those on the shelves and any they may have in the back, and batteries, of course. Guess he's putting that on the company card. He then proceeds to install the detectors in people's homes. Some are surprised, but there are some cases where he stops and instructs, and other households didn't even seem to notice his presence. He does lecture a mom and dad about how a battery just costs $1 and could save their kids' lives, and sure, they've been too busy to replace the battery in their detector, but he asks how they would have felt if the worst had happened to their little girl or boy before they got around to it.
That you came home and found your kids, found them trapped,
He begins tearing up while putting in the fresh battery, then loudly orders the father to put it up before leaving, speeding away with a sorrowful look on his face. The story of home invasions and deadly fires has suddenly taken an unpleasant turn. He's stopped in its tracks by most of the other League, Supes, Wonder Woman, GL, and Martian Manhunter, before breaking down and crying in Diana's arms, saying he can't outrun seeing the images of the kids he couldn't save. Yes, but there's the matter of your grammar, Flash. I heard a few unnecessary you-knows from you a moment ago. Back in the Watchtower's conference room, now all repaired since last issue, Wally explains how he sees those 2 kids even when his eyes are open, thinking about how scared they must have been, crawling to the window for safety, but unable to reach the deadbolt.
So stupid, really. Something designed to keep them safe, and, it killed them.
Seriously, Wally, what did I just say about your grammar? No, what Cal actually says, as everyone seems to look to him anyway, is that he's not going to forget or get over it. He can only move on, and accept that this will be with him always. There'll be days when it feels very recent, but there will come a day where he won't need to escape what he experienced, or feel responsible, eventually finding that he's okay most of the time. We go to a school playground, where the son of that dead superhero is balancing on top the monkey bars as a dare. Some kids encourage him not to wuss out, with one student trying to tone it down, saying young Joey has been acting crazy enough since his dad's demise. The lad holds his balance well beyond the 5 seconds he originally said he could, and while one kid warns that nobody will catch him if he falls, the issue ends on Superman watching nearby, and possibly being spotted by Joey and another kid, but no one actually reacts to his presence. I really hope he doesn't think that tree with nearly all its leaves having fallen off is somehow hiding him from notice. Lastly for today, issue 103. Its cover featuring a poster of the League with John Stewart front and center, while the man himself is pummeling someone bloody. John spent hours getting just the right pose for that picture, and he's not going to let some tag artist give him a goofy tongue or an eye patch. This is your warning, Banksy. GL is flying over a city when he hears a cry for help from an apartment building. Then another cry for help from a neighboring complex. And amazingly, neither of them are on fire. He shoots some green energy into one window, but personally responds to the other, crashing in and stopping a guy from throttling a woman. He tells him to back off from her and stay put, which he seems to obey, while he checks out the other disturbance, having projected the word stop into the room. Inside, another man is holding a bloody pocket knife, standing over a woman with a wound in her stomach, whom he accused of cheating, and claims she got what she asked for. Okay, this does look bad. A knife wound in the gut isn't great, but she doesn't seem to have bled too much, so if you hurry to the hospital, maybe use your ring for some first aid on the way, she can... And he slams the attacker into a wall, because the lady's death is apparently a foregone conclusion. The guy asks what he's mad about. He saw the lantern outside, how he could have stopped him, but he went the wrong way. And because of that remark, you'll go the wrong way after he throws you out the window. Have fun with that. He even claims he was in the right and starts laughing, until John punches his lights out. Later, the police have arrived, with one guy, presumably a detective since he's out of uniform, asking if GL will be okay, after beating the assailant half to death. John strongly insists he'll be fine, as the cop elaborates that the creep was a stalker, totally unknown to the victim. The space cop could not have prevented this, nor could anyone have predicted it. Yet Stewart mentions how this planet full of people are his responsibility, as we go to another 2-page spread with a kind of montage of his heroics, shielding folks from falling debris, replacing an airplane's damaged engine, guess we'll just hope that lands somewhere deserted, and protecting a guy in an alley from a street punk's gun. This unlicensed remake of West Side Story is finished. Crouched on a building, he's determined to prevent anyone else from dying on his watch, though laments not having enough to get everything done, wondering how he's expected to do it all. We've only seen you deal with problems on Earth, so wait until you find out you're responsible for an entire sector of the galaxy, guy who's been a Green Lantern since 1971. He creates a megaphone, aimed towards himself, to pick up chatter from around the area. At least the city, I would imagine. I guess the megaphone kinda makes sense, sound waves moving through air and all, and perhaps we can hand-wave how he's selecting conversations, but if he's going to shift from one voice to another like changing radio stations, why not, like, a radio construct? Anyway, John figures he needs more ring power, but Superman shows up saying he needs some sleep. And a bath. And a shave. Unless you're growing a goatee or a circle beard, which I think would look great on you. Though, if that's the case, you should go full Star Trek DS9 Season 4 Ben Sisko, and just go bald. Which would mean you'd technically still need to shave. Stewart says he's busy, not at all tired, but Clark doesn't believe him, saying it's not humanly possible to be on alert 24/7, and what he needs is to take a break. What's your problem? Is it Hassel Green Lantern Day and you couldn't find Kyle? Okay, now he's clearly fatigued. Everyone knows Hassel Green Lantern Day is next week, and this year falls on Guy Gardner. Batman's gonna punch him in the face again. John says his motivation is 6 billion people on a planet full of innocents that are dying, and feeling he's wasting his time talking to Soups, he flies away. Later, a car has driven off a bridge.
That's some nice reckless driving, Mr. B.
But is saved from a watery fate by a giant green hand. And not the one that James T. Kirk encountered, because I already made a Star Trek reference. The driver has apparently had a heart attack, but John is so exhausted he fumbles the car, as it tumbles upside down on the street. At least it didn't go into the river, right? This stirs him awake enough to try freeing them, but Superman has arrived with Diana, Flash, and Martian Manhunter to help out. The occupants were still wearing their seatbelts, so no more injured by the flip, and Clark will take them to a hospital while the rest of the team talk with Lantern, or at least catch him before he passes out. Elsewhere, on another day, we meet up with Joey again, who's being confronted by some bullies, who've heard tell that Joey was saying someone should do something about the group of bullies, like Joseph himself. I don't know if that's a good idea, because these guys suddenly look less like children and more like really short middle-aged dudes. This town really needs to do something about the growth hormones they're using in the local livestock for food. Joey glares at them, bluntly stating that yeah, he could take the lead bully, and he's not just staring daggers, he's staring straight-up broadswords at them. They laugh this off at first, then turn tail and run, as Superman has arrived, claiming to have just been in the neighborhood. Joey, now staring buster swords at the Kryptonian, says he's likely trying to alleviate his guilt for not saving his dad, having been watching over the kid, but tells Big Blue he doesn't need or want him, ever, and walks away. GL shows up, asking if Supes wants to get some coffee, while the Lantern actually listens for a change. You mean like you were listening to him back in part 1? Doesn't feel like that much of a change even given the context, does it? Amazing what a little sleep and a few friends and their undivided attention can do for you. And since it happened off-panel, we don't need to get into any details of how I overcame my grief overnight. Clark insists he doesn't need him to listen to anything, but John throws his words back at him, how it's not humanly possible to be responsible for everyone all the time. Superman smirks and they head off, with the Lantern threatening to tell him how bad he smells. Clark knows he's joking because one of his lesser-known powers is exuding the fresh scent of pine. It's pretty clear that grief and the limitations of even the most powerful heroes are central to the story. And Joey is as well, apparently. His father's death was unfortunate, but without knowing more about him, there's only so much we can connect with and feel about for now. I think maybe that explosion could have just been 1 page instead of 2, something more sizable on the page with the exterior shot, and heck, maybe Superman's introduction could have been a splash, which would give more pages to focus a little bit more on the new guy, get into his head a little, maybe even have a name? But we are just halfway through the story, so tune in next week for more super drama. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.